Good evening. Welcome in, Missouri fans, to State of the Tigers here live on PowerMizzou.com. Yet another episode where all the people on the show are wearing shirts at the beginning and will be wearing shirts at the end. Let's just get that out of the way early. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you haven't been here before and you're probably a little bit creeped out about the whole thing. If you haven't been here before, maybe you don't know that we're brought to you every single night by James Carlton, State Farm Insurance in Webster Groves, Missouri. CarltonInsurance.net online. You can give them a call at 314-961-4800. Always somebody there to take your call during business hours. Tell them you heard about them on Power Mizzou. James is doing a lot of NIL stuff with Josiah Trotter and with soon to be all SEC receiver Kevin Coleman Jr. this season. So he would like to be able to contribute a little bit more to that. He can do that if you call and get an insurance quote from him and hopefully make him your insurance agent. So that taken care of. Cody Goodwin joins me on the screen. If you're here in the chat, questions, comments, all welcome. Hit the like button, do all the things that help us out. Cody, Ahmad Hardy's good, Louisiana's not, and I don't have anything else to say about what we watched on Saturday. Do you have anything you need to wrap up from that?
I mean, I rewatched the game on Sunday and came up somehow with 35 other things that we learned from the game. So go check that out on PowerMizzou.com if you guys haven't already. Got some more GIFs and clips and stuff. Mostly just like little small things, right? Like, and I think maybe that illustrates a larger point that we could start the show with tonight is that we are kind of nitpicking a 52-10 win if we continue to talk about it, which maybe we will. Maybe we'll move onward to South Carolina. But there was, I mean, I don't like how deep in the weeds do we want to get with the game?
Okay, hang on. Speaking of nitpicking, so you're a GIF guy, huh? I'm a GIF guy. I go with the
GIF is peanut butter. GIF is little video clips.
Yeah, GIF is that's made up. I don't like the way that sounds. It's GIF.
Well, as someone who has a last name that starts with a G, like just Goodwin, GIF, like that's just how I roll.
I mean, my first name starts with the G. I'm not trying to get anybody to call me Jade, but my brother-in-law is Jeff, and that starts with the G, so we can make it work. No, the point is the point I'm making here is Saturday was like it was over literally 4 plays in. I knew that game was over, and it didn't get any better throughout. At least if you're looking at it from a Louisiana perspective. So the way I've been looking at this week, really for a month now, is okay, the season starts Saturday. Like we've gotten through the preliminary stuff, and Kansas was fun, and it was a nice, like it was better than most non-conference games as far as the build-up and the excitement on campus and all that. But I feel like September 20th is the day that this really starts. Like the first, Louisiana, Central Arkansas, that's kind of like we've got to cover it. I get it. We've got to be there and we've got to pretend it's a huge deal. This is one of those weeks that, like, this is why we do this. This gets you excited.
Does your opinion on that change at all after, one, the way South Carolina has looked maybe less than impressive to start the season, and two, there's an injury situation at quarterback for South Carolina with Lenore Sellers, who left last week's game with, was it a concussion or what? Something knocked him out of the game and he couldn't finish.
Yeah. So, and I know we've got questions about Sellers, and we'll get to that and what Shane Beamer said last night. And I do also want to say that Billy Derrick, our producer, he covers Vanderbilt, and so he saw that game certainly and watched it more closely than we did. In a few minutes, he's going to jump on the screen and tell us kind of what he saw too. But so my opinion of this game and how big it is, and the fact I'm excited for it hasn't really changed, but what I think it means for Missouri's season has changed a little bit. I don't think you can make the playoff by any means on Saturday night, but I think you can miss the playoff on Saturday. Like, this has gone from a game that I would have termed 50-50 to a game that if Missouri wants to get where it wants to get, I kind of don't think it can lose this game now.
Well, and in this, it's kind of, I'm almost viewing it in the same light as I did Kansas, with maybe a little less stakes because it's not a rivalry game and it's not the first time these guys have played in 14 seasons, right? Like it's kind of like, okay, this is a step we need to take. This is business we need to handle in order to stay on the path toward the goals we want to have this season. At least that's, maybe South Carolina uncorks the rest of their playbook when they get to Faurot Field on Saturday. But like, they just haven't looked very impressive. When Sellers left the game on Saturday, they looked even less impressive, especially offensively. And I think through the first 3 weeks, we feel pretty good about Mizzou's defense, and especially the way Mizzou played Kansas. We feel pretty good about the way Mizzou's defense can handle a dual threat quarterback. And so you add all these things together and it's like, okay, yeah, in the preseason, this was kind of the red pen circled date where it's like, all right, like this could really be when the season starts. Now it's like, I don't know, man, 3 weeks in, the vibe has shifted to where it's like, okay, this is another step for Mizzou to like just handle your business, get to UMass, get to the bye, and then maybe the season starts October 11th against Alabama.
It's a little more than that to me, and want to thank Ron Davis. He continues to share his gambling winnings that he's hiding from the government with Power Mizzou. So it's cool, Ron. The IRS doesn't watch this show. You're good, man. You're not going to have to pay taxes on whatever you won on Mizzou minus 27.5. But appreciate the comment, man. I've known Ron for quite a while, and I appreciate you always being here and supporting the show and the site. So it did lose a little juice, right? I mean, had South Carolina won, and I said before that game, I think if you're a Missouri fan, you want South Carolina to win this game because you want South Carolina in here 3-0. You want Reese Davis and Kirk Herbstreit and Pat McAfee on campus. And I know people won't believe me, but if South Carolina had won that game, that was almost certainly going to happen. Like, had South Carolina won, I'm very confident game day would have been here. And so it is a little bit different, and the feel is a little bit different. But I think, and this is, being removed from the state of Missouri for a while, I completely get that why you say this is not a rivalry game, but like this is more of a rivalry game than Missouri-Arkansas is. It's not the rivalry Missouri-Kansas is, but like this year, I'm telling you, like they won't ever obviously say it publicly, but it's not that hard to tell. Eli Drinkwitz and Shane Beamer don't love each other. There's there are some weird games in the history of this series, including and the 6 people or whatever that were on the team for Missouri last year. They're absolutely going to remember Lenora Sellers leading South Carolina down the field in the last 2.5 minutes to win the game. So I do think between the players that this one carries some extra weight.
Yeah, I think I agree with that just because the nature of this game and what it's meant to both Missouri and South Carolina in various seasons, and just like, I don't know, weird stuff tends to happen when Mizzou and South Carolina get together. And so I understand the importance of it from that. I'm not trying to poo-poo the fact that maybe this game doesn't have as much weight, but like, I think I don't know. I guess I view it through the lens of like, yeah, I think at the latest line that I saw was like Missouri was favored by like 11.5 or something like that. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds about right. Like a 2-possession, take care of business type win. Like that's kind of how I'm viewing it, at least at this juncture of the week. Like I haven't really dug into all the nitty gritty stats yet, but just based on what I've seen from South Carolina and based on what I've seen from Mizzou, like this, like what we thought was going to be a really big test, I think early in the season. Now it's kind of like, all right, like the Tigers should really handle business here.
Yeah, I think it has gone from a game Missouri could win to a game that most people think Missouri should win. And Billy, if you can put Breaking Bob's comment back up real quick about Vandy taking some of the shine off this, because I want to talk about this because I do find it interesting. And look, we all know that polls in the first 4 weeks of the season are stupid. We all know that. And yet a lot of us still get very upset every time they come out. But I think Breaking Bob brought up a good point. Like the issue for Missouri with Vandy winning that game, and frankly, with how South Carolina has looked, is now if you beat them, you don't get the credit that you would have gotten by beating them 2 weeks ago, right? I remember when Missouri started to make its rise under Pinkel in like 2003 through and then up 06, 07, all that, there was a lot of, the Big 12 North is down. Well, part of the reason the Big 12 North was down because Missouri started beating Kansas State and Nebraska, and they never had. And then 13 and 14. Well, yeah, but the SEC East is down. And I understand that was not peak Georgia. That was not Urban Meyer, Florida. But Missouri still had to beat those teams to get to where it wanted to go. And so just because it's like the whole idea, baseball's better when the Red Sox and Yankees are good. Why? Well, like, why does it matter what the name of the team that's good is? Just, just because a team that you're not used to being good is good does not mean the division or the league or the sport sucks.
Yeah, never apologize for winning the games you need to win to go where you want to go. So, and I think this is another example. Like I think it would have looked better if it was 3-0 versus 3-0. The whole Mayor's Cup thing, game day would have been in town, second time ever. Like it would have really put a big spotlight on this. Now I think because of South Carolina's struggles a little bit, obviously the lopsided loss at home to Vanderbilt, it takes a lot of shine off this. That said, like it's still important for Missouri, even if it doesn't have really all the hype that we thought this game maybe could or should have. So, which
it also adds some shine to October 25th in Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
Like, basically the way I viewed this season coming in for Missouri was I had a group of 5 games. It was South Carolina, A&M, Auburn, Oklahoma, Alabama. I said, if you want to be a playoff team, you have to find a way to go 3-2 in those games. Because I was counting everything else kind of as those are games I assume Missouri is going to win. Now, all that's really happened is I have switched places with the Vanderbilt and South Carolina game. Vanderbilt is now the 5th. You've got to go 3-2. And South Carolina is now one that I'm not assuming they win, but if we want to have the conversations they have to win this game.
Yes, I agree with that. You got to be looking at 5-0 going into the bye week. And then more and more, honestly, my takeaway from watching the later games on last Saturday, which, fortunate that Mizzou moved their game up to noon so then we could catch a lot of the later games. But more and more watching the later games on Saturday, watching LSU beat Florida, watching Vanderbilt take care of business, Mizzou's month of October, like they open with a bye the first week of October, and then they host Alabama and then back-to-back road games at Auburn, at Vanderbilt. Like that is going to go a long ways in defining this season. It's going to go a long ways in, how we're going to remember this Mizzou team specifically. Like that is, and especially like the way, just kind of what the vibes are. And even the conversation that you and I are having about this upcoming South Carolina game, like that's Mizzou's, you got to think they got to be 5-0 going into October. And then that 3-game stretch is going to set the pace for, okay, what is this Mizzou team really?
And I think you need to go 2-1 in that stretch. Like, I don't even care which one the one is, but you have to win 2 of those 3 games.
Yeah, I would 2-1 keeps your goals in line. 3-0, I think, changes the conversation. 1-2, you're walking a tightrope at that point, and it's a tough line to walk to get where you want to go.
3-0, you'd have to trip on yourself in November to not get there.
Right.
I mean, that would mean you're 8-0 entering November. You'd have to lose 3 out of 4 because. And we are admittedly getting way ahead of things, but what the hell? Who cares? That doesn't impact anything. We could talk about.
It's a podcast. We can look ahead. Mizzou has.
We don't have to do one game at a time.
Yeah, we can look ahead.
If we see Eli Drinkwitz or Bo Perbula in the chat, I'm gonna have much bigger questions, but I don't see them in there yet. So, like, I don't see any world all year last year. Especially after the A&M loss, I kept saying, guys, I'm not sure 10-2 does it anymore. And 10-2 for last year's Missouri team would not have done it. Like they could have beaten South Carolina and they were still not getting in that playoff because just the 2 were so bad and the wins were so close and they just didn't have anything impressive to point to. I can't paint a picture where Missouri is 10-2 and is not fairly comfortably in the playoff this year. I'd be stunned if they're not in it 10-2 this year.
It's just so early, man. Like it's still, it's September 15th, is it? So it's
you go 10-2 through this SEC. How are you not getting in?
How does the rest of the league unfold? Like there's so many games left to be played that how many 10-2 teams are there?
Right. Like there can't mathematically be 7 10-2 teams in this league. I don't think. Maybe there.
Well, I mean, Mizzou avoids Texas, Georgia, and LSU, right? And so then how many other crossover games are there? Like you could have some wonky 10-2 scenarios where Mizzou could go 10-2 and go to Atlanta, or they could go 10-2 and miss the playoff. Like it's
right. Or I guess if you go 10-2 and lose to Alabama and Oklahoma are also 10-2, then.
Yeah, like that's where it gets weird.
But there are fewer. Last year, I kind of knew early 10-2 wasn't going to be good enough. This year, I think 10-2 would be good enough, but that point taken. All right, let's get to the Lenora Sellers stuff real quick. Everybody was asking about him. So he took a hit that frankly didn't look that bad. I mean, there was a little helmet to helmet contact, and I understand concussions can happen in any way. So I'm not saying it just wasn't the violent hit that you normally associate with a concussion. And what was weird to me was he was standing on the sideline in the second half. Like, normally, if you've got a concussion, man, like you're back in a dark room, staying away. You're not out in a stadium with lights flashing and 80,000 people screaming. But point being, he didn't play. Shane Beamer said on Sunday night he is optimistic that Lenora Sellers will play next weekend. I will just ask it to you this way. Do you believe Shane Beamer?
I have no reason not to. I don't cover the team.
Here's the reason not to. He is a football coach.
That's also fair. That's also
when he talks, he is usually not telling us the truth.
I think that's fair. And also, the interesting point about this game and that injury specifically is like there's an injury report this week, right? So like they're going to probably have to declare him. And what does that look like?
All you have to do, those injury reports are so stupid because all you have to do is list a kid as questionable all week.
Which is fine.
Brady Cook last year, I knew Tuesday of Oklahoma week he was not playing, but he was on there as like questionable all week long. And then the next game I think was Auburn, and I knew all week I can't remember what the next game was, but I knew all week it was the Alabama game actually. I knew all week he was playing at Alabama, and they listed him as doubtful all week long. Like it has just become another way for coaches to screw with the other coaches. I mean, Lane Kiffin took Austin Simmons off the injury report, played him one play, and then took him out of the game. This is just a giant middle finger to the fact that injury reports exist.
Well, the unfortunate part, at least for South Carolina, is that their backup, Luke Doty, there's a lot of film out there on that dude, right? He's 18 of 28 for the season, like significantly less than impressive and not quite the playmaker that Lenora Sellers is. But like there's enough tape out there for Mizzou's defense to prepare for him in addition to preparing for Sellers, which I almost think if you're Mizzou's defense, you basically take the KU game plan and that's what you do for Sellers, maybe with a couple tweaks here and there. But then otherwise, like you could also prepare for Doty in the same way. So it's like there's only so much head games that Beamer can play this week when it comes to his quarterback.
Let me present the opposing view. Knowing Lenora Sellers, if he plays, is questionable health-wise. Because I'm not sold that Lenora Sellers was fully healthy going into that Vanderbilt game because he just hasn't looked good all year. So knowing that he is not fully healthy, understanding he can run, I go into that game. If I'm Eli Drinkwitz, I tell Corey Batoon, I do the Coach Yost from Remember the Titans, blitz all night, every play. I am bringing heat on Lenora Sellers. I am making him make fast decisions. I am making him move. And if he proves to me in the first two drives that this is a stupid approach, then I'll change it. But if Lenora Sellers starts that game, I am telling Darius Smith and Zion Young and Damon Wilson, I want you after him every play. And I'm bringing Khalil Jacobs and I'm bringing guys from all over the place.
I like that game plan because you look, and this is from PFF, but when he's under pressure, he's been under pressure about 20 different dropbacks this season, 3 of 9 throwing for 22 yards, and he's been sacked 7 times. So, go get him. Line up on the line. I don't want them to gain another yard, right? Get him. Yeah. And
I'm gonna watch that movie tonight. Now.
It's a great movie. One of the best.
I watch it every time it's on television. But and also Sellers is the type of guy, he believes so much in his playmaking ability, and we saw this with Jalen Daniels once or twice. He doesn't throw the ball away. He runs around back there and he ends up taking a 15-yard sack. It happened at Vandy on Saturday night. I will say one more thing on the quarterback situation. I can promise you when we talk to Eli Drinkwitz tomorrow, he is not making the same mistake he did pre-Texas A&M last year, which was basically to mock the idea that Connor Wigman might play. And then Connor Wigman came out and looked like freaking Johnny Unitas against Missouri in that game. I mean, just absolutely shredded them. Like didn't even say Connor Wigman's name. Just kept talking about Marcel Reed and how good he was, and they're not going to play the other guy. That backfired. So
yeah, sometimes
I
it's
believe
tough to
we
learn
will
lessons
not.
like that.
Yeah, I believe we will not see something similar on the Luke Doty and Lenora Sellers question. So before we bring Billy in here, I do want to remind you guys one more time, James Carlton, State Farm Insurance. Go to carltoninsurance.net. Call him at 314-961-4800. Make sure to mention you heard about him here on the show. I was actually on the radio with James this morning. He's part of a radio show I do in St. Louis. So I promise if you call and tell him that we sent you, he knows who we are. And he's not going to get you any better deal. He's just going to give you the same price everybody else gets, but it's a good price. So with that, like I said, Billy Derrick covers Vanderbilt for his grown-up job. He does this as a favor for us on the side, and we certainly appreciate it because I'm not good at the graphics and the button pushing and stuff, so I needed somebody to do it. But Billy was paying closer attention to South Carolina Vandy than we were. And Billy, I'm curious, like as somebody who has covered Vanderbilt for a while, it seems to me the narrative coming out of this game is more, and I understand why it is for us because South Carolina is next, but nationally the narrative seems to be more what the hell is wrong with South Carolina than, oh, hey, Diego Pavia and Vandy, like they can play real football now. Was that more about Vandy or South Carolina on Saturday?
I'm trying to figure out the same thing. By the way, thanks for having me on, guys. Yeah, because look, Vanderbilt is better this year. I think we all can agree on that. Last year was the the kind of the cute underdog story that beat Alabama, and then they go beat Kentucky and kind of faded down the stretch. Vanderbilt has been like dominating teams in the second half and finishing games. And yeah, they've played Charleston Southern and Virginia Tech, who just fired their coach, and South Carolina, who all of a sudden, it's so funny. Like weeks, you guys have probably seen this with Missouri. You talk about a matchup throughout the week, and we heard it all week from South Carolina people just saying, "Hey, it's Williams-Brice Stadium," and good luck. Like, and Vandy goes and dominates them. And I know Sellers got hurt, but South Carolina to me, Gabe, looked completely different what they looked last year. And I know they had a coordinator change on offense, but I was really confused at what they were trying to do offensively. They had a couple of really good drives early, but Sellers throws the interception and everything just went downhill from there. I mean, obviously, you guys touched on the targeting call, and Langston Patterson was ejected from the game. But even then, Vanderbilt was up 14-7, and Carolina's defense was reeling, and it got pretty ugly there in the second half. Carolina had 4 turnovers. And, to me, we talk about Sellers and the offense and their struggles, but defensively, yeah, he doesn't play defense. So defensively, they look totally different than they did last year. So to me, and I know we'll probably get into this, but I look at Bo Prabula as a guy that could potentially have a field day. And I know Missouri does some things differently than Vanderbilt, but hey, if I'm who's Missouri's offensive coordinator?
Kirby Moore.
If I'm Kirby Moore, I'm calling up Tim Beck. I don't know how many coaches do that, but like I'm saying, hey, what did you guys do that worked so well? And there's a thread actually, and I can send it to you guys on offense of what Vanderbilt was able to do. But it was really impressive what they were able to do. But I was also surprised by Carolina's defense and how bad they were.
Which is that was one of their calling cards last year. I know it's Beamer, it's special teams, all that, but like the defense was pretty good, or at least they rounded into good enough down the stretch, right? Because they won 5 or 6 games in a row after they started 2-3 or 3-2 or whatever it was. It was right after the narrow loss to Alabama, which was a weird game in itself altogether. But then they were able to pick some things up. Sellers, man, maybe I'm in the minority. Great playmaker, very traitsy guy, draft people love him, but just I was never really impressed watching him, but he always just made at least one play more than maybe he needed, or at least he made the play that South Carolina needed to win in some of those games down the stretch last year. But I was still just kind of and I don't know, maybe I'm thinking too much about the way that Missouri handled Jalen Daniels in Kansas. But when I think of what makes Sellers such a playmaker, it's not much different from what makes Jalen Daniels a playmaker. And I would argue that Jalen Daniels is probably a better thrower of the football. So then if Sellers can play, that's why I'm if Mizzou just pulls out the defense they had for Kansas, I think they'll be fine. And then when it comes to like, I don't know. At this point, when it comes to Missouri's offense, I kind of just have to see it if somebody's going to stop them.
Mm-hmm. Well, in Missouri, they've handled South Carolina, in that offense. I mean, they haven't, it's not like South Carolina and Sellers last year, rolled over them. Like, I mean, look, maybe
they did when it mattered.
They did when it mattered, but like, I think Missouri's defense matchup wise should be fine. This version of Carolina.
Yeah.
I think after watching that Vanderbilt game, especially.
So I don't think South Carolina was winning that game, even if Lenora Sellers played the whole thing like that. That just was going the wrong way even before Sellers sat. But like, if my theory is right, and my theory is that Shane Beamer's just not telling us the truth, and I don't think Lenora Sellers plays this weekend. Like, I kind of tuned out for most of the time that Luke Doty was in the game because like it got boring. So I started watching other games. I'm assuming because you cover Vanderbilt, you continued to watch.
Yeah.
Like, can South Carolina win SEC games with Luke Doty as its quarterback?
I really don't think so. He didn't look awful. Like there were a couple of runs that he had, and I was like, oh, he's faster than I thought. And a couple of throws here and there, but they were very much out of sync. And I mentioned at the beginning that I was confused at what Mike Shula was trying to do on offense. Looking back,
Mike Shula's been confused about what Mike Shula's trying to do on offense.
Right. Most of that, looking back, was with Doty. So all due respect, I did think Sellers had a couple of good drives there at the beginning. Luke Doty versus Connor Bazelak 2020, by the way. Yeah, Doty's been there forever, which is wild. I think he actually beat Vanderbilt too in 2021. He's not bad. Like he can go in there and be serviceable, but that's a good question. Can he win an SEC game? Like, that's a whole nother question, especially when Missouri and Prabula are out here, scoring as many points as they have been. So, yeah, Gabe, watching that, it was weird because Vandy has lost 16 in a row to South Carolina, and you got so used to Carolina dominating, against Vanderbilt, especially in those second halves where they would just outman them and out-tough them. South Carolina, to me, didn't seem as physical as I expected. And, yeah, part of that could be Vanderbilt, and we'll see. It's week 3. But, the running backs, they don't have a Rocket Sanders. I think those guys are fine with Faison. But, we were talking before, Gabe, like Nick Harbor, where was he against a somewhat susceptible Vanderbilt secondary? Like, they just don't have, and somebody mentioned this in the SEC Network said after the game, they don't have very many weapons. I mean, like if you look at their offense, they really don't, receiving wise, especially too. So, yeah, and don't forget about Aaron Nolan too. Aaron Nolan, their third string, is a guy like the Aaron Nolan experience, I could see that potentially on Saturday as well. So yeah, but no, to answer your question, I don't think Doty is going in there and beating many SEC teams outside of Kentucky.
I do wonder how different South Carolina's offense might look if maybe they do play Aaron Nolan. I don't know. Like, that's a name I haven't heard in a little while. I actually forgot he was at South Carolina until
Where did he transfer from?
Ohio State.
I was going to say he was originally at Ohio State, wasn't he?
Yep.
He's one of those names. It's similar to like Lunch Winfield. It's like, like who's he play for? Like, I kind of have to follow him and see where he's going. I forgot about Aaron Nolan for a little bit. No, I wonder like whether it's Doty or Nolan, like Shula having an entire week to prepare with them. Does that change things? I don't think so, because to your point, the lack of weapons on that South Carolina offense, like maybe that gives me a little bit more confidence that Mizzou's defense can really take care of business on Saturday, just because when you don't have the strong arm traitsy quarterback that can kind of make something out of nothing, and you kind of have to revert back to a little bit more drop back traditional style offense, and you just don't have the dudes, like that's a lot of times college football games just come down to do you have dudes or do you not have dudes?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if South Carolina has dudes. We ain't seen them yet. Put it that way.
Yeah.
So, Billy, I want to wrap up your on-camera responsibilities with this. Obviously, we'll talk a lot more Mizzou Vandy, next month. But do Vandy's goals reset now? Is this or I don't know? Maybe Clark Lee 100% expected to walk in and win that game all along. Like, maybe this doesn't surprise him at all. it surprised me a little bit. The way I've always viewed Vandy since the beginning of the summer was Diego Pavia is going to wreck someone's playoff hopes. And I don't know if it was realistic for South Carolina to have them or not after the way they looked, but they had them, and Diego Pavia wrecked them. I also view Vanderbilt as like, look, I thought before the season, they're going to win 7, maybe even 8 if things go really well. But God, that schedule, man, this league, I still don't think anything more than that is very realistic for where they are in the building process. But have expectations there changed since Friday morning or whatever?
They have, especially with the fan base. Now, the Vanderbilt fan base is interesting. There's a really young portion of the fan base that is fired up and making memes of Diego Pavia, holding the Heisman Trophy and national championship dreams. But you've also got the older portion that is a lot like you, Gabe. Like I'll believe when I see it. I've seen a lot of Vanderbilt football, and I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. And look, that's a fair point to be made that. Look, you played Charleston
Does
Southern.
The other shoe belong to Georgia State?
It very well could. It did last year. So that's a revenge game for Vandy, which is hilarious to say. So, look, and they got to play Utah State right before Bama too. Utah State's feisty, so it doesn't, for Vandy especially, it doesn't stop with the SEC teams typically. And I don't think that'll be the case this year. It was last year with Georgia State, of course, but. They have, and it's about Pavia, but it's also about this defense. And I know we'll get into this, Vandy Missouri week, but I think the defense has been the story at least through 3 weeks. I know Pavia's laying lead blocks and talking to Theo Vaughn about dating his mom potentially. I don't know what's going on there. But
I saw that on the broadcast. If you need the details,
yeah. Oh yeah, I saw. I actually wasn't watching live at the moment, and it goes viral. But yeah, look, it's a fun program. It's a fun team to watch, and that has really, it's only been the case under Franklin, at least in my lifetime. And, outside of the early 80s, when they made a couple of bowl games. So yeah, they have, Gabe, but and I was thinking too about Virginia Tech, like Vanderbilt was a part, like they played a big part in firing Brett Pry. Like you can say, yeah, Pry got fired and then they lost to Old Dominion. Well, I think that was a big part of the tipping point, Vanderbilt's domination in the second half.
Vandy teed it up, and Old Dominion hit it 340 down the middle of the fairway.
Right. So, yeah, these next couple of weeks, so they should be 5-0 going into Alabama, which could be a top 15 matchup if Vandy has some luck with teams in front of them, the AP poll, and then a bye, and then LSU, and then that Missouri game. So you're right about that Missouri-Nashville game, because I'm looking who Missouri has, obviously South Carolina, Alabama, and then Auburn. That could be another top, 20, top 15 matchup if Vandy and Mizzou.
I texted Billy in the third quarter on Saturday night. I said, I'm having dreams of a Missouri-Vanderbilt SEC title game. Like the SEC might legitimately disband that week. They might just go, no, we don't have title games anymore. We can't do this.
I also had the thought too, because everybody wanted game day to be in Columbia for Missouri, South Carolina, and I'm like, well, what about game day in Nashville for Mizzou, Vandy?
Right?
Like that's almost like an SEC title game elimination game if the schedules unfold the way they think we will. Like I don't know.
I bet they go there if Vandy gets to 5-0. I bet they go there for Vandy Bama.
They play Bama in Tuscaloosa.
Oh, it's in Tuscaloosa. Okay.
So for Vandy, they're saying if they make it 2 in a row against Bama, it'll be there for LSU in Nashville, which would be Clark Lee against Brian Kelly, which would be fun. But yeah, it's been fun, and I do think they've changed, Gabe. But again, who knows with the SEC? I mean, and who knows with Pavia's health too? Similar to Missouri, like if Prabula goes down, that's not ideal. And same thing for Vandy. If Pavia goes down.
Cook asked, who does Vandy have lined up after Pavia leaves? Here's the good news for Vanderbilt fans. He's never leaving. He's just going to stew again, and he's coming back in perpetuity. Like, lawsuits are going to have 34-year-old Diego Pavia leading Vanderbilt 11 years from now.
Honestly, sign me up for that. That'd be awesome.
I think everyone in the state of Alabama would oppose that, but most other people would probably enjoy that.
I think it's fair to say he's the most universally liked player in college football right now. Like other teams' fans, probably Alabama hates him. South Carolina probably hates him right now. But other than that, I think most fan bases are like, man, I love watching this dude play.
I bet Hugh
So
Freeze
fun.
wishes that was his quarterback, at least until before he got Jackson Arnold, because I know that they're doing some good things down on the plains. But I bet Hugh Freeze just had nightmares about that guy the last few years.
No question. All right, well, Billy, appreciate you, man. We'll pop you back
guys.
off the screen and let you pretend you're working while not really actually paying attention to us. So thanks.
Thanks, guys.
All right, wait. I don't know. This is
Oh,
why
you
I didn't
left
know
me
to
on,
press
Gabe.
the buttons. I left Cody off and Billy's on there, so I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I'm going to put myself up there single until Billy can figure out how to put Cody back on the screen instead of himself. So
there we go.
See, this is why I'm not in charge of the button. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. So, all right. I know we've got quite a few questions and stuff like that. So we're 40 minutes in. Let's go ahead and if we can hit some of the questions from the chat and some of the things that people want to talk about, we will do that. Injury reports, yes. If I remember, it's 6 o'clock ish on Wednesday night. The first one comes out.
Yeah, I think it's 6 o'clock ish around there. Like they say 6, but sometimes 6:15, something like that. But then it's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then 90 minutes before kick on Saturday.
I will give you even money odds that Lenora Sellers is listed as questionable Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday night. Like that, he's going to be questionable every day.
He will be a game time decision 90 minutes before kick on Saturday.
100%. I hate that. Like because last year was the first year, I always forgot about him. And then I'm like, oh crap, we got to get a story ready. The injury report's coming out in 20 minutes. Status of Sellers. We've talked. I mean, like you said, Beamer said he's going to play. So you take a coach at his word. I'll believe it when I see it. Now that we've gotten a conference play, this is from Cam Cameron, former LSU offensive coordinator Cam Cameron, possibly. But now that we've gotten the conference play, what 3 safeties do you expect to get the majority of the snaps the rest of the way? So I assume here we are counting Dalen Carnell as a safety, even though that's kind of the hybrid.
He's in that like star role where it's a little bit coverage, a little bit center field ish type thing. I would go Carnell, Catalon, and maybe Burks. I don't know.
I still think it's Burks.
I know Banner's gotten a lot of run these first 3 games at safety. So, but I feel like they trust Burks a little bit more. And I know that sometimes he can bite a little bit, but every now and again he comes up with a pretty big play. And something tells me they're going to live with that and at least try to coach the whole you bite too much out of him.
He's so athletic and he can end a guy's night the way he hits. Catalon and Carnell are like, there's no question about that.
Yeah.
Banner and Burks have kind of split snaps 50-50, but I agree with Santana Banner's got 3 years of eligibility left and he's coming from Northern Illinois. So I think these 3 weeks were about, let's make sure we get you plenty of experience. Let's, give Marvin Burks, who we know what we're getting from him, a little bit of rest. And then I think those snaps will favor Burks over the last few weeks. And Cody, we were talking about this and we're going to, I think you're going to write a little bit about this later this week, but Missouri has 1 defensive player who's played 100 snaps in 3 games. Their defense has basically only really played a game and a half.
Yeah, the only player that has played more than 100 snaps is Catalon at 103. Dre Norwood's played 92, Carnell 84, and then everybody else has played 80 or fewer. Which is
that's basically so when you add the bye week that they're going to get after UMass, you're through 6 weeks of the season, and I expect UMass to be another light load. Like you're going to have played the equivalent of 2.5 or 3 games defensively. You are going into the last 6 games of the season fresher than probably any defense in America.
Yeah, which is a good thing when you look at obviously the schedule coming down the pike after that first bye week. And really, it's good because it's like you're cycling a lot of kids in to get good snaps and good minutes, good playing time. You get the good view of like, okay, who can I trust? Who can I not? Who needs to work on this? Who needs to work on that? But I do think there's something to the idea that once they finally settle into SEC play, these guys are going to have their legs, I think, all the way through, the starters specifically. And you're going to need that. But I also think like you're going to need some depth in a few spots, like the defensive line. You may want to rotate a linebacker or two. Secondary, you may want to insert some different personnel just to kind of do some stuff depending on the matchup. And so those guys getting that experience, a lot of the younger guys getting that experience now, in theory, it should bode well when they need to do things like that in some of those SEC games. But yeah, these guys should be fresh, like having only played, like you said, 2.5, maybe 3 games total snap count wise going into the bye week, because like I keep saying, that 3-game stretch in October is going to go a long ways in kind of defining how we view and remember this season. And knowing that the defense is going to be fresh, because they're going to need the A team to play all the snaps against Alabama, against Auburn, and against, weird to say it, but they're going to need the A-team defense to play every snap against Vanderbilt, because that team looks like they're on a roll.
No question. I really enjoyed Cam Cameron's avatar, by the way. It was like a tiger, but it had a lion beard on it. It was kind of cool. I enjoyed it. Phil is asking, what week is the first CFP poll? Do you know that? It's sometime in October, mid-October, maybe.
Something like that. I want to say either late October or early November, because they only do like a few weeks.
I think it's after week 8, maybe something like that.
Yeah, like it won't be for a while. You guys don't have to worry about it for another month or so.
And here's the good news: like all the gnashing of teeth over the top 25 poll and the rankings, and the insults of the lady that elevated Florida after they lost to USF and all that, like because of the 12-team playoff, like it truly doesn't matter. Like I trust the committee. By the time those come out in week 8, you're going to know enough about it that like you're not going to see 4-4 Notre Dame in the top 25 if that's the case in week 8. So I get why people are frustrated about it right now, but it really doesn't matter right now.
Yeah. Google is telling me November 4th.
Billy also told me November 4th in the chat. So 4th. Billy may actually be in charge of Google.
He's either in charge of Google or he's in charge of the CFP. So I don't know what delineation we want to give him, but hey.
Well, if that's the case, Vanderbilt's going to be number 9 in the debut ranking.
Well, they won't fall any lower than 12, right?
Right. So, all right. Yeah, let's roll on to Jason. Is South Carolina's offensive line really that bad? I don't know. I don't know if you watched it closely enough to get a look at the Carolina offensive line and what you thought of it.
I didn't get the best look because, truth be told, while I was watching it, I had a few other screens going, so I didn't get the best look. But like, they don't look great. Like, I think it's an offensive line that can be had, and then you look at what Mizzou has been able to do the first few weeks, and really, I mean, they didn't really do anything crazy or exotic against either Central Arkansas or against Louisiana this past week. Like I kept track of the actual like dropbacks, like how often did Mizzou just send 4 fewer and how often did they send more? And I think Louisiana dropped back a total of 17 or 18 times in the game. A few of them were pulled out via penalty, but I just kept track of them anyway. They only sent more than 4 on 4 of those dropbacks. One of them resulted in a sack. Every other one resulted in an incomplete pass and a pressure. So like the fact, like it's Louisiana and South Carolina, we're obviously talking about apples and oranges here when it comes to offensive line talent, but it's an offensive line that can be had. And this Mizzou team, I think, has a lot stored up in the chamber when it comes to pass rushing and blitz and what looks they're going to give pre and post snap. Like I think there's a lot that Corey Batoon can do to this South Carolina offensive line to, be able to generate that consistent pressure on the quarterback, whether it's Sellers or Doty or even Aaron Nolan. Like I think Mizzou could have a heyday against this offensive line. I don't know if they're going to rack up like 6 sacks, but like that's, I like Mizzou's defense in that matchup.
I think also like all of us fall too much into the trap of just looking at the sack numbers. Damon Wilson has been an elite level pass rusher through 3 games. Like he has rushed the passer 43 times and he has 9 pressures. That is, quick math, better than 20%, somewhere under 25% pressure rate. And that is like the really good players by the end of the season will be somewhere between 20 and 30. So like, could he be to be all SEC, to be like an elite level guy? Yeah, maybe he needs to be a little bit better, but he's been very productive and has 3 sacks. And like Darius Smith doesn't have any sacks, but I feel like I've seen Darius Smith in the backfield a decent amount. He has 5 hurries. I feel like Chris McClellan spent a lot of time in the backfield. So the sack numbers might not be there, but I feel like Missouri's defensive line has been better than that number would tell you.
Yeah, PFF says as a team, as a defense, they have racked up 36 pressures so far this season, and that is not going to look good when you compare it to LSU's, when you compare it to Georgia's, when you compare it to a few other teams they do a lot more. Ole Miss, they love to send.
Like how many passing plays has Missouri faced?
Right, that's the other thing too. 80. Like, yeah, that's the other thing. Like the amount of dropbacks that they've had. Like you go look at that Kansas game where 22 of their 36 pressures had come. Like that's like a true game of like, this is what Missouri's defense can do when it comes to rushing the passer. Your point on Damon Wilson, like he has a pass rush win rate, which is a fun little advanced analytics term of like 21.6%. Like to dumb that down, once in every 5 pass rushing snaps, he is affecting the quarterback. Like that's an insane rate, guys. Like that is really, really good. And it's not just Damon Wilson. You mentioned Darius Smith. I've been particularly impressed on the rewatch almost every week watching Zion Young, because it seems like he does something that flashes on tape every time I go back and rewatch the game. I'm just like, oh, there's Zion Young doing something cool again. Like he obviously had that big play against Kansas, which resulted in the safety. Like it's one thing to have like a consistent dude or two, but like Mizzou's got a number of guys that, like you mentioned, can get in the backfield, can affect the quarterback, can disrupt the pocket, can get the quarterback off his platform, out of rhythm. And like that's almost as important, if not more important, than just sacking the quarterback. Like obviously you want to get the quarterback on the ground, especially one who's athletic like Lenore Sellers and Jalen Daniels. But if you can just disrupt them and get them on the run and force them to have to make a play, you're going to live with that more often than not. And that is something this Mizzou defense has done very, very well through the first 3 games of the season.
Yeah, and again, 147 plays through three weeks. The only defense that's been on the field less than Missouri's is Minnesota. They've faced 144 plays in 3 games. All right, let's kind of try to zip through the remaining questions relatively quickly, a little rapid fire style. We do like to try to wrap this up around the hour mark if we can. The soccer asked just the soccer. The soccer as a whole thing. How does Mizzou approach this QB question better than Texas A&M last year? Well, Drinkwitz doesn't get up there, and I still don't know if he truly didn't think there was any chance Connor Wegman was going to play, or if he was kind of being him and he just couldn't help himself being a little bit of smart. I still don't know, and like I don't even know how to ask him, because obviously at this point it doesn't matter. But like I just remember walking out of that press conference and going, man, he better hope Connor Wigman doesn't play, because A&M people kind of think he's going to play, and he looked amazing in that game. Like it was by far the best day of Connor Wigman's career.
Yeah, something tells me Drink is going to be a lot more diplomatic when it comes to the quarterback situation at South Carolina, if for no other reason that he learned his lesson the last time.
I mean, we are going to hear that Lenora Sellers is Lamar Jackson and Luke Doty is Josh Allen on Tuesday afternoon. So that's how he approaches it better than A&M, I think. Couldn't approach it a whole lot worse. And even he's admitted that. Like he said at media days, he didn't handle that super well. So Hayden Orschelin asks, will Kirby Moore get a new job when the season ends? I mean, we're only a quarter of the way through, but it seems like he will have some opportunities to me. I put on the board, if I'm UCLA's athletic director, and I don't know who that is because I think they change like every couple months. Maybe that's USC that changes every couple months. But if I'm at UCLA, I at least want to talk to Kirby Moore.
If you're UCLA, you got to make Kirby Moore tell you no, right? Like he's got some West Coast ties, right? I believe he spent some time at Fresno State.
It's like Northern California and Washington, but still.
Yeah, but like at least he knows the West Coast, he knows that area, so like you got to at least give him a call. I think if I'm Kirby Moore, like I'm waiting for the right opportunity. I'm not just going to jump for a job because it's a Power 4 job, right? Because it's like not all Power 4 jobs are made the same. And I'm not sure that UCLA is the stop that he wants to go to for his first head coaching job, just because there's a lot of work you're going to have to do to get that thing up off the ground. Because like you're going to be in a market that's, it's the second biggest market in the country, but they're really kind of apathetic when it comes to their college sports. And also, even when you're good, you're the second show in town when it comes to college sports because USC runs that town. When USC is good, that's where the city, LA rallies around USC. I'm not sure that they really rally around UCLA football specifically. And so there's, how's the NIL look? How's the recruiting look like? I'm not sure UCLA specifically is the job for Kirby Moore, but also if you're UCLA, you do need to at least call Kirby Moore and have him tell you no, just because of his ties and also the success that he's had the last few years building Missouri into the offensive machine it is now.
And I think Kirby will have some choices at the end of the year. He may not take any of them, but I think he will. He got interviews after his first season here. I don't think really had any after last year. I could be wrong on that, but I don't remember any. But I think he'll have some opportunities to explore some things, and we'll see where it goes. I mean, kind of like we've said about Drinkwitz. I don't know. I'm not friends with Kirby Moore. I can't tell you how he thinks, but I think he'll at least have those opportunities. All right. If we're going, I think next to Truman. Okay. Someone has to know something for the line to be where it is, right? Yeah. I was surprised when I saw it up near 11 or 12.
I don't know that I was.
That tells me, yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. South Carolina's been really bad. Missouri has been good. I thought it would be somewhere closer to like 7.5. I don't know. 11.5. I don't know. It kind of tells me maybe some other people agree with me and they don't think Lenora Sellers will play, but I don't know.
Well, I mean, I think it gets closer to 14 if Sellers truly can't play. Because then 2 scores over another SEC opponent that was projected to win 8, 9, 10 games this year, even if it's at home, like that's, that if it gets up to that point, that tells me a little bit something about how Vegas probably feels about Sellers. But I don't know. Like South Carolina kind of did this last year too, where they didn't really look all that impressive. And then I was covering Alabama last year, so they came to Tuscaloosa, and like that game got really funky really quick. And it was partly because Alabama misplayed a few things, but it was also because South Carolina didn't quit. And that was they almost won that game. And then they rattled off 5 or 6 in a row after that. So they really kind of came together at the end of the season. I just wonder, maybe that's the nature of Beamer's teams, where they maybe start slow and then they pick it up once they get out of the month of September and make this mad dash at the end of the season. It could be exactly that this year, but just so far from what I've been able to gather from South Carolina, I'm not very impressed with them. And so it's kind of one of those all right, they're going to play a team in Missouri that is on fire right now, and they're on the road against that team that's on fire. Like, if you're better than you are, I haven't seen it yet, and you kind of have to prove it to me. So I saw 11.5, and I was like, yeah, okay, I get it.
I mean, I'll say this. I've got a pretty good friend that covers South Carolina, and I was texting with him on Sunday, and he said Missouri by 21, no matter who's at quarterback. So that's the attitude in the other Columbia right now. That may have changed in the last 36 hours, but that was the attitude as of Sunday morning. Hardy and Roberts are the best 1-2 Mizzou running back punch since. I mean, again, I'm still for now going to say since Josie Murphy Hansbrough in 2013. Like those three guys were all on that team. And so very impressed with Hardy and Roberts, and frankly, pretty impressed with Marquise Davis. And I think by the end of the year, the numbers could make me change my mind on that. But 3 games in, I'm not going to say they are better than comeback Henry Josie and Marcus Murphy and Russell Hansbrough.
Yeah, no, not to give away too much of what I'm writing tomorrow in the vibe check, but man, dude, Ahmad Hardy looks really, really good. And that is just the tip of the iceberg in what is really an embarrassment of riches for Mizzou in the running back room right now. Like all of those guys have shown through the first 3 weeks that they are legit dudes. And I feel really good about that position group right now.
And I'm not sure you guys can get an appreciation for this when he's in uniform with pads on and everything. But like when he walked away from the interview on Saturday after the game, I turned to Cody and I go, oh my God, his thighs. Like they are gigantic. They're like as big as my waist, and I'm not skinny, man.
Yeah, there were a couple times when I was rewatching the game where I just kind of looked at him and I'm just like, this dude like is just a physical specimen. Like he just looks like he's lived in the weight room, and it's like no wonder they can't take him down because he can squat a semi truck. And then, oh, by the way, like when he actually does take care of the ball and ball security, like that ball ain't going nowhere. Like that dude is strong as all get out. Like it was, I don't know, just impressive all the way around.
And guys like him just make you realize how ridiculous it is when when you get all fired up about recruiting rankings and we missed that guy or we didn't get this guy, or he went to Louisiana Monroe and nobody else wanted him. Like, how does that happen?
He
Look
was
at the
a
kid.
he was a 3-star recruit. He was outside the top 150 for his position group. Everybody swung and missed on this guy.
Yeah. Yeah. And a year later, he's in the SEC and second in the country in rushing behind some cat from Texas San Antonio who's putting up some big numbers. So I think we've got a couple more. We got a couple minutes left here. I know there's okay, the Jinja Ninja. We will always have to put him on the screen, right? Like we got to use that. Or as Cody would pronounce it, the Ginja Ninja. Does South Carolina score more than 17? I don't know. That's like about the neighborhood of what I'll probably pick.
I mean, is Sellers starting or not? Because that might dictate my answer here.
Well, but also, Kansas scored 31 and only had 240. Like sometimes a weird thing. If they score on defense, yeah, they probably do score more than 17. If they block a field goal and run it back,
yeah. When it comes to
like it's not hard to get to 17 points.
Yeah, I mean, and especially with Beamer, you got to take into account special teams because they for whatever reason, something funny special teams wise always happens with South Carolina and just all Beamer teams. So it is a full 3-phase game when you do play these guys. Like Mizzou's going to have to lock in from that perspective. But man, I don't know, man. Like 17 point, like it doesn't seem very hard to get to 17, but then you look at the way
for them to get to 17.
Yeah, like just the way that their offense has kind of sputtered and the fact that Sellers may not be there to give them another dimension. And then, oh, by the way, they're going up against Mizzou's defense, which we all feel pretty good about. Like that's just, when you put all those pieces together, it's like, man, 17 is a pretty tall hill to climb, man. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. I want to finish up. Good. This is the one I wanted to finish up on just because it's fun to talk about. And like, when you're talking about coaches at other programs, it's fine. You can say whatever the hell you want. Like there's no responsibility. Like I couldn't answer this question about Eli Drinkwitz, right? Because like I got to go see him tomorrow. But I just can't imagine there's a situation that could lead to Shane Beamer leaving South Carolina for Virginia Tech. Because it has to be this year, because that's when Virginia Tech's opening is. Like I don't think it's going to be bad enough that South Carolina wants to fire him. And I can't even see the safety net of like SEC to ACC, man. That's not Virginia Tech was a better job than South Carolina 15 years ago. It is not a better job than South Carolina now.
Yeah.
It's not even close.
I mean, when you say leave, like, would he ever like leave South Carolina? Like, no, I don't. Like, South Carolina would have to force him out, and like you said, it would probably have to be now for him to ultimately end up at Virginia Tech. Otherwise, like, why would you leave the SEC?
Well, the only way I can see it is if he pulls the Frank Haith beat the posse out of town, right? Like, if he gets to the end of this year and he goes, Sellers is mad, he might go in the portal. I don't love what we have. If we go 5-7 next year, I think I'm fired. I could reset the clock and go to Virginia Tech and start a new 6-year contract for $6 million a year, whatever. That's the only way. But I just can't. I don't think it gets to that point.
I don't think it does either. I would be very surprised if it got to that point. But I don't know. Crazier things have happened. Like the train could totally come off the tracks in the other Columbia this season, and we could be having a different conversation in November. But I don't know. I'd like to think that Beamer's a good enough coach that they could salvage a little bit of something, but you just never know. I don't know. Getting beat by Vandy 31-7 at home is not a good look. And so I don't think he'll get fired by the end of the year. I also don't think he'd leave just because I find it really hard for somebody to get an SEC job and then willingly walk away from it to go to a different job, which I think we can all argue like Virginia Tech's a very significantly worse job than South Carolina.
Yeah, I mean, it's the gap between like how many ACC jobs would anybody leave the SEC for? Maximum 3. Maximum.
Miami, Clemson, and who?
Florida State. Maximum.
Yeah. That sounds about
nobody
right
else is even a conversation.
Yeah.
Like you're not leaving Mississippi State to go coach Louisville these days.
No.
You're just not doing it. But also this, just even that this question is asked and it's not an immediate, oh my God, this is ridiculous. Like literally a month ago, everybody thought Shane Beamer was coaching a playoff team. Like that's how wild this sport is and why these guys sign these contracts that guarantee them so much money, because 3 weeks later, everybody might be trying to run you out of town. Like if you read South Carolina message boards, they would pay Shane Beamer to go coach Virginia Tech right now. And this is why message boards don't hire and fire coaches. But
yeah, I don't know. I would be shocked if he made the switch after this season. If I would be shocked if South Carolina let him go at any point during the season or even after the season. So that's, leave for Virginia Tech. I don't like that. That would be I don't know. I don't want to call that a concession, but like if you leave South Carolina to go to Virginia Tech, I would question how badly
you can't get it done.
Right. I would be questioning like, do you believe in yourself as a coach to be able to reach the highest levels?
Look, that's exactly what I wrote the day Frank K took the Tulsa job. I said he took the week. 98% of coaches bet on themselves and say, I can get it done. And he admitted I can't get it done. And he went to Tulsa. And look, I like Frank. Personally, I have a good relationship with him. I saw him at Peach Jam, talked to him for a few minutes, but that right there told me something. And I don't like the starting the clock over and admitting you get if you get to the point you get a job in the SEC or the Big Ten, you make them drag you out of the office and pay you all $66 million they owe you to go away.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I can't see that happening. So,
all right, let's finish up. Make sure we give Freeway Jared a shout out. He's here every single week. Gives us the super chat on the shows. So, Jared, appreciate you always hanging out with us, and that feels like an excellent way to close this thing out. Unless Cody, an hour and 3 minutes was not enough for you to say all the things you had to say, and there are other things you want to say.
I can't think of anything more. I feel very confident in this Missouri team. I feel very confident in this Missouri team going into this matchup. And I do find it interesting that we're 3 weeks into the season and already the vibes have shifted to the point where what we thought would be a pretty pivotal game on Missouri's schedule is now I hate to call it another handle your business game, but it's the SEC version of a handle your business game where you've got a reeling team coming to your house where you haven't lost in 2-3 years, and go take care of business. Like you're the better team.
Yep. Good teams keep losing, teams losing. That's what it is. So appreciate all you guys hanging out here with us tonight. Appreciate Billy not only running the show, but popping on and giving us a little perspective of somebody who watched South Carolina more closely than either of us did, while we were also watching 3 other games and pretending to finish up work after the Mizzou game last week. So thank all you guys for hanging out. I think we got up to about 260 tonight. That's awesome for a Monday night. I know you guys are excited for this week. We'll have Media Day tomorrow. I'm going to do another show later in the week with one of the guys from the South Carolina 24/7 site. So we'll be back with that. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Join us over at Power Mizzou. Still 30% off. You're already a quarter of the way through the season, so hurry up and don't miss any more of it because it's only going to last 16 games. So see what I did there?
Hey, somebody's getting a little antsy and excited about this Tigers, huh?